Hello there everyone, Mr. Cruze here with another Algebra 2 review. This is for the Chapter 6.6 to 6.8 test, which will be given tomorrow, March 6th, 2013. Alright, so these videos are designed to help you review, so feel free to pause them, rewind at any point if you're not sure what to do. Okay, so here we go. This first one, they give us f of x equals x minus 2 and g of x equals x squared minus 2. They want us to perform each operation and then find the domain, of course. All right. Remember, the domain, you can just start with the domains of these. Are there any troubles plugging in x values there? No. So the domain of this one is all reals. Same with this one. Remember, your only troubles are negatives under square roots and zeros in the denominator, neither of which is happening here. So, of course, any combination of them is just going to be all real numbers again. All right. So f plus g. Well, that's pretty simple. F plus g. You're just doing a simple substitution. Combine your like terms, of course. X squared has nothing to combine with. X has nothing to combine with. The negative 2 and the negative 2 add together to negative 4. And again, the domain is all real numbers. Okay. Part B is g minus f. This is where people get into a little bit of trouble. G is x squared minus 2 minus f. Okay? This is the part where I want to make a big point. Minus. Most of you will remember to subtract x. That's fine. What most of you will forget to do is to subtract negative 2. So here's what I'm going to show you how to do. So instead of subtraction, I'm going to show you to add the opposite. So change these signs. And now you can just add. X squared, once again, has nothing to combine with, so it's just x squared. Plus a negative x will just be minus x. And negative 2 plus 2 now is just 0. So that's it. And your domain is, of course, all real numbers again. All right. Be careful of the minus. All right. You don't want to do anything that you're going to regret later. All right. Division's the only kind of weird guy. F over g, that's not too bad. X minus 2 over x squared minus 2. Guarantee you I'm going to see people try to cancel the 2's. Don't do it. They're different things. All right. You might be tempted to try and factor the bottom, but there really is no way to factor the bottom. X squared minus 2 does not factor nicely. So this is actually it. This is your answer. You just have to figure out the domain, which would normally be all reals, except you have a denominator now. So you have to figure out when the denominator equals 0. Okay. So x squared equals 2. You take your own square root. Alarm's going off, so you have to have plus or minus. So basically, the domain on this one is all reals except x equals plus or minus square root of 2. Those are the only numbers in existence that will make this have issues. Okay? Number 2 just asks you to find f minus g. So once again, that minus. Okay? So let's do that. 5x plus 11 minus g is negative 3x minus 14. So let's change the signs. Add the opposite. So basically it all becomes plus now. 5x plus 3x is 8x. 11 plus 14 is 25. Okay? That's all they ask us to do. F of g of x, this is the fog thing you guys liked so much, f of g of x. Basically means do g of x first. Well, I know what g of x is. G of x is negative 4x plus 2. I'm now going to plug this, the negative 4x plus 2, in for x, into f. Okay? That's what this tells me to do. It tells me to do g of x first, get an answer, and plug it into f. All right? So 5 times negative 4x plus 2 minus 4. You're just basically replacing x with negative 4x plus 2. Distribute, of course. Negative 20x plus 10 minus 4. So it becomes negative 20x plus 6. All right. Number 4 tells you to f times g. Remember, closed dot is times. And its domain. Don't forget the domain. Okay. Well, you can do f times g. That's pretty easy. Once again, the domain is going to be all real numbers again, because this guy has no trouble. This guy has no trouble, so any combination, as long as it's not division, is not going to have trouble either. FOIL. Sound effects help. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times 3 is 9x. Negative 6 times 2x is negative 12x. And negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. Combine your like terms, you get 6x squared minus 3x minus 18. And of course the domain is again all real numbers. No trouble there. Don't circle through the all real part. Okay, simple foiling, you've been doing that forever. Hopefully it wouldn't be too difficult. Alright. F divided by G, okay. So you would put F over G. Ooh, the only thing you have to consider here, this one's a little messy. The only thing you have to consider here is you have to factor the top, maybe. See if it factors. And I believe it does. Let's see, that would be, oh gosh, 2x plus 3 and x minus 1. Of course, if you're not sure how to factor, you could always see what multiplies to negative 6, right? And adds up to 1. That would be, what, negative 2 and 3. Split up that middle term and then factor by grouping, right? Anyway, you get this. What cancels? Well, the x minus 1's cancel. So your answer is 2x plus 3. But what's its domain? Well, normally it would be all real numbers for both of those, right? Except x minus 1's in the denominator. So what number would make the denominator 0? Well, that would be 1, of course. So x can't equal 1. All right. Not so bad. If f of x equals 3x minus 8 and g of x equals 2x plus 5, find f of g of 3. So do g of 3 first. So plug 3 in for x, and we'll get an answer. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 5 is 11. Now I need to take that and plug it into f. So f of 11 equals 3 times 11 minus 8. So you get 33 minus 8, which of course is 25. Okay, not so bad. If f of x equals 4x minus 3 and g of x equals 5 minus 8x, let's find 2f of x minus g of x. Okay. Well, f of x is 4x minus 3, so 2 times that minus just 1g, so minus 5 minus 8x. Okay. I'm going to distribute. This becomes 8x minus 6. This part, you can just go ahead and add the opposite, right? So it'll be minus 5 plus 8x. And then you just combine your like terms. 16x minus 11. Okay. Not so bad so far. Find the inverse of the function. Remember, finding the inverse, all you have to do, switch the x and y! You guys love shouting that, okay? Hopefully you're shouting it at the screen right now. Switch the x and y! So, let's do that. You might be thinking, oh, Mr. Cruze, there's no y. Oh, sure it is. F of x is the same thing. I told you that, guys, that week 1, I'm pretty sure. You don't have to necessarily do it in the order it's presented here. I usually like to find the inverse first before I go about finding everything else. So, here we go. Let's try it. Y equals 2x minus 3. So switch the x and y. X equals 2y minus 3. We're going to add 3. X plus 3 equals 2y. Then you have to divide everything by 2. So that'll be 1/2 x plus 3/2, and that equals y. So there's your inverse. Okay, that's f inverse, if it's a function, of course. Since it doesn't have plus or minus, I can go ahead and answer the question down at the bottom. Is the inverse a function? Of course it is. It's a line. 1/2 x plus 3/2. Slope of 1/2 and a y-intercept of 3/2. It's going to be a function. Let's see, domain and range. Let's figure those out. Well, I like to look at the domains myself. So, 2x minus 3. Are there any issues plugging in x values? You have to think about, are there any possibilities of the 0 in the denominator? Are there any possibilities of having negatives under square roots? The answer is no, so it's all reals. Same with the range down here then. Remember, those two are linked together. I like to look at the domain of this guy as well. 1/2 x plus 3/2. Is there any trouble? Nope. X is technically on top here. So there's really no zeros in the denominator, and there's no square roots in sight, so it's all reals again. As long as they're not horizontal or vertical, as far as lines are concerned, their domain and range is going to be all reals all the time. Okay? As opposed to number 9, all right? So, switch the x and y, of course. So x equals y minus 1 squared. You have to square root it. Whoop, whoop. Red light should be going off. Plus or minus the square root of x equals y minus 1. Add 1, of course. You get plus or minus square root of x plus 1 equals y. Thanks to this plus or minus, you're going to have an upper branch and a lower branch of a graph. So it's going to fail the vertical line test, which means not a function. Okay? Let's look at the domain and ranges. The domain of this, x minus 1 squared, it's a parabola. And I told you back first semester, domain of all parabolas is going to be all reals. Okay? As long as they're pointing up or down, of course. But basically, there's no issues with plugging in x values again. So that's the range down here as well. But now, what's the domain of this guy? Plus or minus square root of x plus 1. Well, really, the plus 1 I could care less about. It's the square root of x. You can only take square roots of non-negative numbers. So that includes 0, of course. So you always set what's inside the absolute value, or what's inside the absolute value. What's inside the radical greater than or equal to 0. Because that's the smallest it can be, is 0. You can't go any less than 0, otherwise you'll end into imaginary territory, and you don't want to do that. Okay? So there's your domain. Not much to solve for there. So that means the range is y is greater than or equal to 0. Make sure you switch that. Okay? And that makes sense, too, because you can't get any y values smaller than 0 out of squaring something. Okay? Number 10, for the function, find the inverse, determine whether it's a function. Okay, well, 5 minus 2x all squared. Switch the x and y. You have to square root everything now. So it'll be plus or minus square root of x equals 5 minus 2y. I'm going to subtract 5. So it'll be plus or minus x minus 5 equals negative 2y. And then you have to divide everything by negative 2. Now, dividing by negative 2 does not affect the plus or minus. So it's just plus or minus the square root of x over 2 plus 5 halves equals y. You could also write it like this. I'm assuming your test would probably write it like this as well. That's okay also. All right. Is it a function? Nope. Once again, that plus or minus makes it fail the vertical line test. So not a function it is. All right.